social media marketing. Thank you for coming. I will present my guest speaker, Damien Schmidt. Have a nice presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out. My name is Damien. I give you a short presentation today about the Love Queue, something that I call the Love Queue. It's about love, brands, and social media. Everybody can hear me in the back? Okay, perfect. Before we begin, I want to do two things. I just want to take a short picture of you. Quickly. Say cheese.
Cheese.
Okay. Nice. And I just want you to stand very quickly. I know you had a long day. Stand very quickly. Stretch. Okay. Here. Bring it in. Right here. Okay. Okay.
Followers.
I tell my mom that you all stand and give me an ovation when so my name is Damien. Today I'll talk to you a bit about, I'll introduce myself a little bit more. We'll go through what I call the Love Queue, something that I've spent some time on and thought about and developed. Then we'll discuss how brands can use the Love Queue and the role that social media plays in combination with the queue. At the end, I'll open the floor for questions. I speak fairly slow, so you should be able to make notes and remember your questions in between. Yeah? Let me just get my papers. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So 100% Caribbean, just in case you didn't notice. I was born on a small island called St. Kitts, of course in the Caribbean. From there I grew up in St. Eustatius, which is one of the islands in the Bovewins Island, the Leeward Islands, the Leeward Islands. From there I studied in Curacao for a few years, and most of my friends are from St. Martin. Big up St. Martin.
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur, and I believe in the power of entrepreneurship. I believe that every one of us should be entrepreneurs. Even if you work for someone, you need to have that entrepreneurial spirit for you to succeed. I also believe in the power of communication. I believe that there's still a lot of things that we should be fixing in terms of, or still a lot of problems that we should be solving in terms of communication. And that's one of the reasons why I try to focus on advertising and promotion during the course of my study here at Holland University. Also, one of the reasons why I decided to get into marketing and communications and as a freelancer. I love music, I love entertainment. I studied the International Media Entertainment course here in Holland as well, graduated. Big up the class of 2012. And also founded a Caribbean DJ group here in the Netherlands called Godfather Sounds, which is currently one of the top DJ groups in the Netherlands in terms of Caribbean music. I also love technology. I studied information technology for a total of 6 years, and I recently started First Line Tech, which is where we do computer repairs, maintenance, but also websites and everything in that field. Let's see. Yeah. This is the Love Queue on your right. You begin with the initial meeting where you meet the person for the first time. You have an aha moment. You reach the block where you face your toughest obstacles. You fall in love, and after that is a dip. I'll explain each phase a little bit more in detail. But before we do that, one does not simply fall in love. According to me, it's a series of subconscious decisions. There's no definite timing. It doesn't guarantee that you'll be in a relationship, so I don't want you to leave here today and say, oh, Damien said that I should be in a relationship now because we're in this phase. Don't do that. Thank you very much. We're always analyzing, so therefore, technically the connection, the love cue that you see again just now, can be broken at any given moment. And it goes both ways. Yeah? It goes both ways, as in it's for the pursuer, but also for the pursuee. Okay? Or the one being pursued, if you're an English expert. Okay. So we'll begin by the initial meeting. Here's where you meet the person for the first time. We make things very simple and use 2 examples from the room. Your name was? Rinaldo, and your name was? Yvette. Yvette and Rinaldo. Yvette, can I say Yvette?
Yeah.
Okay. Yvette and Rinaldo, have you met each other for the first already?
No.
No? Okay. For the purpose of this, for my example, consider yourselves now meeting each other for the first time in the initial meeting. Yeah. At some point, usually the guy, so Rinaldo, decides that, hey, Yvette is a potential. I consider her to be a potential for myself. So he has his aha moment and he decides to begin pursuing Yvette. If he's successful, Yvette also sees him as a potential, and they begin working towards or they begin what they call the snowball. If you think in terms of a snowball trying to create an avalanche, here's where you start the snowball at the aha moment. Before you reach the blockage, the snowball creates some momentum. The attraction grows, the attention grows, the interest grows. At some point you come along the toughest obstacle, the things that would make you reconsider your relationship with the person or the connection between the person. If you're successful, you get past the blockage, you get past the toughest obstacles. 2 things for you to, very quickly, 2 ways for you to get past the toughest obstacles. You either decide to ignore them, sweep them under a rug, or you decide to work on them, make agreements, and see how you can work it out. Either way, if you're successful, again, and you get past the obstacles, you technically move on to falling in love. Here, falling in love, of course, is, and as you can notice, is not a no phase is very definite. It's kind of gradiented over each other. But basically, this is where you try to maintain your relationship. Sometimes you fall back into dealing with obstacles, sometimes you fall towards the dip. If you get to the dip, here's where the affection grows cold, there's not much affection anymore, there's not much interest anymore, etc., etc. If you find yourself here, 2 things very quickly, 2 ways for you to get out of here. You try to jumpstart the relationship again, or the connection again, and do the things that you used to do while you were in love. And do the things that you used to do while you were in love, or you try to create the aha moment again and begin the cycle again. Oh, I forget to do the PowerPoint. So if you're successful after the dip, you then basically the cycle continues until someone decides, hey, I had enough, it's too much, I can't take it anymore, and they decide to break the connection. So this is basically the love cue. Again, very quickly, it's a series of subconscious decisions. There's no definite timing, there's no relationship, or it doesn't guarantee a relationship. You're always analyzing, so it can be broken at any time, and it goes both ways. Now, how can brands use the love cue? If you understand the principles of the love cue, you also understand how you can also apply it to your professional life. What is a brand? Very quickly, a brand is something that stimulates feelings, stimulates opinions, stimulates emotions. You know the promise, you know the logo, it carries a certain attitude, it carries a certain image. If I'm correct, according to my calculations, almost each and every one of you in here are supposed to have owned at least one of these brands. Yes? Yes? Yeah? In the back also? Yeah? Okay. Now I want you to make sure I'm on the right track here. Yeah, so I want you to think of one brand that you have, that you currently love. One brand that you currently love. Someone here in the middle?
Apple iPod.
Sorry?
Apple iPod.
You love your iPod. You love Apple. You love Apple or the iPod?
The iPod.
You don't really love Apple?
Well, sort of Apple, I guess.
Sort of, not really, but the iPod for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that. Over here? Yeah?
Blackberry.
BlackBerry. You love the brand BlackBerry. Okay. Now, as a tech expert, I can't agree with you. Let it slide. Let it slide. Okay, for the rest of you, I want you to think, also select a brand in your head that you really love. I won't give you any more hints. But at some point, remember, if you remember quickly, there was an initial meeting with the brand. Maybe you saw a poster, maybe you saw advertisement on Facebook or somewhere that where you met the brand for the first time. At some point along the lines, you realize that this brand is something that could be a potential to solve one of your problems. You move on. Maybe the price was a problem. Maybe the product itself was a problem. The product needed a bit of tweaking. It wasn't necessarily up to par. Maybe the place where you, so the distribution point where you actually buy the product was a problem. Either way, at some point, you move on and you fell in love with the brand. As the sister here said, she's not necessarily totally in love with Apple, but she has affection for the iPod. Some of you maybe have loved brands before, and you fell into a dip. I know some of the iPhone users who are expecting a lot more out of the iPhone 5. Some of you may be in the dip at this moment because you're not totally happy with the way the results of the iPhone 5. But either way, and again, the same principle continues. You still love the brand, you still love, and the cycle continues until they decide to maybe not produce the products anymore. Now, the role of social media in the queue. Nowadays, it's very easy. Social media makes it very easy to communicate both ways. Before, traditionally, it was a lot of push. Hey, this is what we have. This is why you should buy. This is why you should love us, etc., etc. Nowadays, it's more, hey, this is what we have. What do you think? This is what we have. Would you buy it? This is what we have. What would you share, etc., etc. Social media, of course, makes it a lot more easier to share who you are, but also share common interests, share amongst yourselves, but also share with the brand as well. Social media also makes it easier for you to gauge the responses, ask quick questions, and get some feedback from your customers if you're thinking in terms of a brand. Again, social media makes it easier for you to engage with your customers, which is something very hard to do at some points, depending on the brand that you sell. However, engaging in terms of calling to action, engaging in terms of building conversation, and stimulating that relationship between the two. 3 tips before we leave, quickly. Most importantly, in any relationships, the most important thing is for you to listen. You cannot go on social media and say, and apply the same rules as traditional media. Hey, this is what we have, you should buy. This is what we have, you should buy. Listen to us, do this, do that. No, the entire playing field is different. You now have to go and ask questions, build a community, and get that feedback. Secondly, as communication students, I believe most of you, the idea is experiment. Nobody knows the future. If you ask any social media expert, there's nobody who is a social media expert because nobody knows. The same thing with the internet when it was introduced for the first time. So if those of you that have passions for cooking, have passions for writing, I would suggest that you get online, choose social media channels, test and experiment things for yourself so you can also contribute to the greater scheme of things and help me solve communication problems. Help us solve communication problems. And lastly, decide. You don't have to choose every single social media channel. Decide which one is the best for you, where you use it, when you use it, and how you use it. Because your customers are not always on every single social media. I have a small picture here. Maybe some of you have seen it before online somewhere. If you haven't, you can look for it later. But this also helps you to see that each social media has its own purpose in the greater scheme of things. Yeah? In the end, I basically want to say that, as you can see, the Love Queue is not just for your personal relationships, personal connections, but it's also for all of your connections, all of your relationships that you have with others. And I hope that you could use it to be better communicators, more efficient communicators, and let's solve some problems. Yeah. I now open the floor for questions, if you have, based on my...
I have a question.
Sure.
If you fall in a dip, then you just go back and do it over again, or you the same passion do you like, or you can choose something else?
Well, in terms of brands or...
Brands and...
Okay, the principle is this, okay? That's why I say you have two things. You either decide for yourselves or together with the brand or with your whoever the person is. If it's worth it, basically, for you to, if you had a good time. I have some theories on if you should, I have some theories on if it makes sense or not, because sometimes you stay in a relationship because of the benefits that you get from the relationship, or you stay in a relationship because of how the person makes you feel, etc. So all those things, you have to weigh in and decide on if it makes sense or not for you to start the relationship again or start over again. Maybe starting over again could be a better solution because then you get to, or at least try to get a new view of things. Yeah?
But isn't social communication kind of like confusing? Because then, if you don't know what to, if you fall in a dip, then you're done already. Like, okay, should I really start over liking another product, or should I continue to go fall back into the dip again?
And that's what I said. You're always analyzing.
Yeah.
Every time, for example, I love technology. I love phones. Go Android. No, but the idea is, even though I love Android, even though I love my phone, I'm always looking at the new phones that come out. You understand? Not because I want anyway. But you're always analyzing and trying to compare, even if you're not, even if you're trying not to, even if you're saying that you're not comparing, technically you actually are. You are analyzing and saying, and we're looking at the differences. That's part of what makes you human, and that's kind of part of what makes our society, because you always go after things that you don't have. You understand? So it's always about analyzing. Yeah.
I just want to add a little bit as well, from a brand perspective as well. When you come to a dip as a communication specialist, you can choose at that point to stop that and start over again in the Love Queue with something new. Come out with a new message, engage in a new way, while listening. So you know what you did wrong when you reached the dip the first time. So the second time around, hey, let me do it differently. Let me try it this way. Let me listen. Oh, they said this. I'm doing this wrong. Let me do it another way. So you're creating basically a new experience. If you want to be effective as a communication specialist, you're listening and you're changing your way of doing things.
but communication actually is affecting our life because we communicate more with mobile.
Yeah.
And that's also a problem because we don't communicate more contact like one-on-one. Like I'm coming over by you, we come about contact more. Okay, how are you? Even if you're next to me, I'm like, okay.
Yes. But even it doesn't really matter where you communicate as long as you do communicate.
Okay.
You understand what I mean?
Okay.
In especially from a brand's perspective. Right? Yeah. Any other questions, comments?
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you be in love with two brands at the same time?
You have a Samsung and an iPhone, don't you? Yeah, you do.
I would want to answer you, but I think we have to take off the camera. But technically speaking, you fall in love with, according to me then, you fall in love with something or you build a connection with something, mainly because, especially brands, mainly because it solves a problem for you and you see yourself in the brand a little bit. So if you can see yourself in two brands at the same time, or if you see yourself, if your problem is being solved with both brands, then technically.
Because sometimes, like, say one brand, you have certain benefit the other brand doesn't give you.
Exactly. So as I say, it's a matter of solving your problems. If you look at all products, most of your products solve a problem. So, for example, in terms of phones, a lot of people have Blackberries just because they can BB pin. Aside from that, they don't really use the phone. They use the Android or the iPhone because it's a better experience. So, technically, yes.
Sean, would you call that your alternate dips? Somebody doesn't fulfill and you go to another one?
That's BlackBerry doesn't work so good enough. I'm gonna stick with this one and then buy a next one and say, okay, that's one benefit.
Yeah, but every brand is going to disappoint you at some point. So whether you choose to stay in the dip or whether you choose to wait and see, exactly. Whether you wait to see if the iPhone 57 is going to be better than the iPhone 22, because who knows if we're going to get to that point. So.
Okay.
I like both. I have both. Both are nice.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much for being here this afternoon.